What Happens in the Woods is a true crime podcast. We discuss events that are often violent in nature. Listeners' discretion is advised.
Hey everybody, welcome back. We are here for our second episode this season. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Feel good?
Good.
Yeah, good. Just good. We good. We have a guest. He's over there waving at me like I'm not going to say. My brother Colin is back with us for this episode.
He wants an introduction.
Yes.
Yes, of course I do. Hi.
A guest star.
Yes, I'm a guest star. I'm not a guest. I'm a guest star.
Okay. Bryce is going to fuck with you the entire time. This is all he wants out of life.
I know. It's fine.
All right, how are you today? Are you good?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm doing well. I do have some great news to share with your listeners.
Yes.
I get to irritate my sister and my brother-in-law 24/7 now that I live in their living room. So it's been fun. It's a great experience.
Yes. Yes. We are a house that is full. We're at capacity. We're at max capacity between people and animals.
Yes.
But that's okay. A house filled with love, right?
Yes.
That was not okay that you hesitated. All right.
I'm joking. It's been great. I can't thank anyone enough.
Well, we're happy to have you here.
Grace you with my presence.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Any updates?
UK was leading this morning as of recording.
I don't know. It just goes back and forth.
It does. Well, actually, Sweden was number 2.
Oh.
We do love our British cousins across the pond
Yes.
this week. And also our Swedish cousins.
I mean, I don't have any Swedish cousins. I don't know that we have any, but we love you anyways.
Well, through transitive property.
Okay.
We're all human.
Yes. I would love to come and visit. Anybody want to hook up a trip for me? I will be there. I would love to visit. All right. Are we ready? Anything else? Any other updates?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have anything you need to mention, Colin? Get it out now. Get it out.
No,
No, we're good.
I've already been to therapy this week. Thank you.
Okay. I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this episode is a continuation from our last, where we discussed the kidnapping and safe return of George Weyerhaeuser. That was in 1935. And this was just the beginning of a string of abductions in the city of Tacoma that happened over for all that happened over 18 months, it was a lot of shit that happened. So we also mentioned the 2 attempted kidnappings, and that was of a 6-year-old boy. That was just a year after George was kidnapped. Somebody tried twice, and it just kills me, twice to kidnap this one little boy. Why wouldn't you, if you didn't do it the first time the right way, you need to move on. Why would you try twice? Because now they're on alert. I don't know.
People are crazy.
Yeah.
So
you're trying to make sense of people that tried to kidnap a 6-year-old.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What the huge coincidence was, I think throughout all of this, the connecting factors is how close in vicinity all of these happened within maybe like a 10-block radius. But this particular little boy was living in the same residence where the Weyerhaeuser family had lived. They had moved out, sold the house to this family, which I couldn't quite confirm their name, so I'm not mentioning their name. But they renamed the property Hadaway Hall. So he is living in the same house that the Weyerhaeuser family lived in, and they attempted to connect. It's just a crazy connection.
Was it the same people? No, I guess not.
No, because they were in jail
Yeah.
by that time. They were in jail. Yeah, they did find. They didn't ever find who attempted this kidnapping of the boy twice. They really don't have any.
So how do they know they attempted?
So the first time, they interrupted somebody where they were trying to get to the second story, and they had put a ladder on the side of the building. So he was interrupted, or they were interrupted. The second time, somebody got into the house and was trying to get to the area where the nursery was.
Oh.
And they actually, at that point, had guards, and a shot was fired. Like, shots were fired back and forth, and the person escaped.
Oh, so there was a gunfight.
Yeah, basically.
Oh.
The family, though, was able to keep this out of the media and keep it very hush-hush. So that is why I had there's literally no details other than it happened. But they didn't want any news of that to get out. So it's not in the newspapers. It's not anywhere. Yeah. It's very strange.
Yeah.
Very strange.
Like, how do you just hush that out of the media?
Yeah, and then they left town. Right afterwards, they went on a very extended, long vacation to California.
Probably for the best.
Yeah. Both of these stories, ended well for the victims and their families. Unfortunately, the ones we're going to cover in this episode do not. So I apologize for the sadness that follows. So the same month as the attempts on the 6-year-old boy, a young woman by the name of Mildred Hook was abducted by her estranged husband, Douglas Van Vleck. That name kills me. I'm not going to lie. Van Vleck. It's very, I don't know. I'm picturing Scrooge McDuck in my head and Darkwing Duck. And I just picture one of them saying Van Vleck for some reason. I don't know.
I can kind of see that.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. This isn't like exactly a case of kidnapping for ransom, as the other two. We're assuming the 6-year-old was going to be kidnapped for ransom. We're assuming that. This, like, the intentions of her ex-husband stem more from an obsession than financial gain. But the way this was connected in the area and the way this made national news and how it was reported, that's where the connections are. Like, very similar in how the media just took hold of these stories and just ran with them, made up all sorts of shit. The news was everywhere. Their marriage had been very highly abusive. Mildred had been trying to get police assistance and keeping him away from her. When it was all over, like, the entire country was made aware of just what had happened. It was all over the place. So the two met because they lived in the same neighborhood. And they ran into each other when Mildred was out looking for the family dog that had gotten loose. And I had to laugh because the dog's name is Buster, and we have a Buster. And he sure would love to get out of the yard and wander around. He has, but thankfully he didn't go very far. It's stressful. So they meet. This is 1933. She was just 19 years old, and he was 28. It's kind of gross. It's cringy.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. So they began a secret relationship. They kept it on the low. It was very whirlwind, and the two were married just a few months afterwards. And they didn't tell anybody's parent, like the families. They didn't tell either one of the families. So they're both still living at their homes with their families while they're married. And they kept it a secret for a few months.
Very Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah. So at that 5-month mark, somehow it came out. They either decided to tell or something, they were caught. Her parents were not happy whatsoever. But the two moved out, and they moved in together to an apartment, and they began their lives together. Our friend Doug, and I call him Doug or Dougie, just because Douglas sounds respectable and I don't like him. So our friend Doug was not the most...
Fair enough.
I don't like him. If I could go back in time and take somebody out, I might pick him.
Now baby Hitler.
Oh, that's a dilemma. Yeah. Well, can I make 2 trips? It's about the same time.
No, you only get one. Oh. Just like the Avengers.
Well, then, yeah, it's got to be Hitler. I mean, of course it's got to be Hitler. I don't like this guy.
No.
Can I send somebody else?
No.
Can somebody else take their trip?
No.
You know what?
You got too many rules on that.
You kill Hitler, I'll kill Dougie.
Okay. Thank you.
I got you, sis.
Okay. So Doug was very unreliable. He could not keep a job. He would get a good job and he would fuck around. He'd lose the job. She, meanwhile, is very well employed. So she's working. She's got a good job. And he also was drinking a lot, which probably is why he couldn't keep a job. And he became verbally and physically abusive towards her. She actually filed for divorce twice over the course of their marriage. The first was in November of 1934. They reconciled. For whatever reason, she maybe didn't think that she could get a divorce, or I'm not sure. So the second time was last in September of 1935 when she was shoved down a flight of stairs after they had been arguing about money. That was at his parents' house. I was trying to find any information that said, like, his parents were home or not home, or the family was not home. Nobody came to her aid. He, like, shoved her downstairs. She was very badly beaten up and locked out of the house. And nobody helped her. So either they weren't home or they could have given a fuck.
Kind of sounds like his family probably had a lot of problems too, and he was probably a product of that.
It's possible. So she goes around the corner to her parents' house, and the very next day she files for divorce and a restraining order. They were both granted. I was a little surprised by that she was granted a restraining order, given the time period that we're talking about. Crimes against women, like physically or mentally, were not necessarily always taken very seriously or enforced. You know, these type of things were not enforced. So I was kind of surprised pleasantly for her that she was able to get a divorce and a restraining order. I had kind of a feeling that her father, he was a very well-connected man. And so I have a feeling that he was supportive of her efforts and that maybe helped her a little bit in that case. Dougie seems to be kind of a loose cannon. So just 7 days after the divorce, Mildred had to seek medical treatment after she claimed that he was stalking at her parents' house, like casing out the joint, watching the comings and goings. He was so sure that there was men coming and going for her. Like she just set up a house of prostitution at her parents' house. He actually abducted her, and on November, that was beginning of November. I don't have a date for that. She claims that he sexually assaulted her and she had to seek medical treatment for that. She doesn't file any charges at that time.
I don't like the victim blame here, but I mean, like, she should have filed charges. She should have done a lot of things.
She really should have, but I mean, given the
I get the time period, and it's just, if you don't want it to keep happening, you got to break the cycle. Break the cycle, man.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. And I think, given some of the facts that I'll talk about, I think she just thought that if the procedures were in place, like, you know, the restraining orders in place, she was hoping that, you know, backing of the law, so to speak, would be enough to deter him. It was obviously not.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, as a victim, though, you have to.
Well, she's also 19 years old, 20 years old at that time.
Yeah, I guess.
It's just really hard for a young woman who in that time is going to be blamed too. Probably going to be blamed for being attacked or not being able to make her marriage work.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Women were still considered property.
Yeah.
I mean, they were coming out of that time period.
I mean, barely had the right to vote for what?
Yeah.
15 years by that time,
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel the same way. It's like, why couldn't you just
stick to
it and enforce it,
Yeah, she did have the restraining order. Her heart is in the right place with the restraining order, but then not enforcing it.
No, I don't know what they're doing to enforce it. Yeah.
Especially if her dad was well connected.
Well, and I think that she maybe tried to, I'll get to that.
It.
Yeah, I'll get to that.
Okay. I like jumping ahead.
I know, you always do. So she's taken again by force. This was November 14th, and this time he forced her into a car and made her take a drive with him. She was again physically restrained and attacked. This time she and her lawyer went to file charges.
Good.
But she backed off when she heard what the punishment would be if she filed charges. Like the maximum punishment was something like 20 years in jail.
Probably give him time to cool off anyway.
I mean, he sounds like he should have been there anyways.
Yes.
Her dad, after finding that out, he and his attorney went to the DA's office on the 18th, and they tried to have him charged with kidnapping. And this was under the newer, harsher law that had been enacted.
After the Weyerhaeuser?
No, not necessarily because of the Weyerhaeusers, but it was becoming a thing. You know, these snatchings across the country. And at some point they were saying, like, we want to enact this so that we can get ahead and deter people from wanting to do it. So automatically it was death penalty if you asked for a ransom with kidnapping in the state of Washington.
Wow.
Yeah, they weren't playing around.
Yeah.
So he was like, no, you need to file, I want to file charges for kidnapping. And the DA was like, yeah, there was no ransom though. He didn't ask for ransom. So I can't, but I can charge abduction with intent to assault. And that was filed. However, I can't see that they put out a warrant for him, arrested him. I don't see the follow-up of it.
Yeah.
is the problem. So on the 24th of November, Mildred is again forcibly taken by Dougie. He's drunk. He hops the curb in his car in front of her house as she's coming home with a friend. They just come off the streetcar.
Yeah.
They're walking home, and he has a gun this time. He's got a .38 pistol, takes her forcibly, tells the friend, don't involve the police or I'm going to kill her. And Mildred doesn't want to go, but he says, I'll shoot you and then kill myself if you don't come with me. You know, she's trying to defuse, so she gets in the car.
Now, do you picture Scrooge McDuck holding a gun saying, get in the car?
No. No.
Okay.
No. Only when you say his name, Van Vleck.
Van Vleck.
Yeah. Not him personally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. Just, I picture like that name being said by Scrooge McDuck.
Okay.
Van Vleck.
Get in the car.
Am I weird? I don't know.
I have nothing to say.
I apologize to everybody. Sorry.
You're not weird. I agree with
just, Van Vleck. When's the last time you saw that name? When's the first time you saw that name? For me, it was this.
I don't think I ever have.
Yeah, I don't say. Okay. Not a household name here.
It's like actually, my real last name is Van Vleck.
It's not. Shut up.
How do you know?
I am your sister. I was there when you were born.
Ew.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Yeah, I've seen things. Okay.
Fucking weirdo.
All right. Stop. All right. So she gets in the car. They head out of state to Oregon, and they end up driving 24 hours nonstop.
Jesus.
And I'm sure he's just fucking psychotic.
Yeah.
They reach Idaho, and the police, by that time, her dad has notified the police, and they're like, okay, well, we're going to put on an APB all along the West Coast, which they do. They also put out a bench warrant for him, which too little, too late. According to the friend that he got the gun from, so he took this gun. The friend says he didn't realize it was gone. His friend was staying at the YMCA at the time and had a .38 pistol.
I mean, yeah.
I was like, what?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but so back in those days, the YMCA actually sheltered people.
Yeah.
Because of the Great Depression, right?
Yeah, it was a men's, basically a shelter.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, so I'm going to go in. I'm going to have my gun.
I'm going to be packing with my .38.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he didn't realize it was gone. Dougie had taken it. But he said that Doug told him that if he could not get Mildred to reconcile with him, he was going to try to take her to Mexico. And if she still wouldn't cooperate, he would kill her and commit suicide. And you didn't think that was important to tell anybody. Warn a girl, warn her family. Hey, this guy's a little off his rocker.
Right.
Right. No, we just stick to our own. We don't butt our noses into other people's business.
Maybe he just thought he was harmless. He's just drunken talking. I don't know.
I mean, maybe. They get to, like I said, Idaho. They get to Twin Falls, and the car is recognized and pulled over. There's a deputy sheriff and a patrolman. It was not the Idaho State Patrol at that time, but he was still a patrolman. They get out, and they recognize who, he's matching all the descriptions for the APB. And before they can get him out of the car, he pulls the gun and shoots the patrolman through the eye.
Jeez.
He's instantly killed.
That escalated quick.
Very quick. And then before the deputy sheriff can get his gun out, Dougie has fired 3 shots. He very badly injures the sheriff. One of them went through his throat. One of the shots went through his throat.
Ugh.
So with that, he puts the car in drive and he takes off. There happened to be a witness that was close by that had driven by and seen, going the opposite direction, had seen them pull over the car. And then he heard the shots and he could see kind of in the, his mirrors, he kind of see some of this happen. So as Doug is driving the car off, this guy pulls around his truck and he checks to see if anybody survived. Well, the sheriff did. He was still alive at that time. So he gets him in the back of his truck, gets him to a hospital. Because of that, the authorities are alerted right away.
You draw a lot of attention when you shoot someone, especially a police officer.
Yes, very much so. Yeah,
Typically.
This sheriff was not having it. They went to very extreme means to try to find these people.
That usually happens when you kill a cop.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The word's out. They start volunteer posses are coming out of the woodwork. The men are coming into town with their guns.
The militias are here.
Right. They quickly set up roadblocks on all the main roads and some of the smaller roads. And Doug is trying to get anywhere, but he doesn't know the area. So they're coming to these roadblocks, having to turn around, go another way. He's on these back roads. He doesn't know where he's going. They actually run out of gas.
Oh, shocker.
So they have to abandon the car. He really, I don't know. As I'm reading this and I'm trying to think of what his thoughts are and what he's trying to do, is he's still trying to get to Mexico. At this point, he's just a wild card and there's no way of knowing. I was really just kind of wondering, this is where I feel for the victims, and Mildred probably knew at that point that she might not survive, and I can't imagine being in the car and you're driving around and then you run out of gas and he's like, oh, well, we got to get out on foot. It's really sad. They run out of gas. They abandon the car. They then set out on foot. It's freezing. It's middle of the night. And on November 26th, Douglas Van Black was found after a search plane spotted a man in a ditch. A posse of volunteer men came across him not long after that. They were able to hold him and get him unarmed.
Take him into custody.
Take him into custody until the sheriff came to collect him. The sheriff was like, yeah, you're going to, I'm sure they roughed him up a little bit. I don't.
You think?
Yeah. I don't know.
Back then?
Back those days,
Yeah. So he maintains that he let Mildred go. He maintains that he let her, go, and that she's probably on her way back to Tacoma by this point.
Sure.
Right. So there's no sign of her. They don't know where she is. They can't, they don't see any sign of her where they found him. Then the sheriff notices that the gun has blood on the butt of the gun, and there's black hairs that are dried to that blood. And they obviously know some shit went down and he's not being honest. So he's taken to the county jail. They hold him without possible bail. And then they quickly set arraignment and a trial date.
Yeah.
And they're not fucking around with it. So he readily admits to shooting the sheriff and the patrolman. But he maintains the entire time that he is being interviewed and talked to that Mildred is on her way back to her family. And there's no problem. So they obviously don't believe it with, what was found on the gun. The county is searched entirely for any trace of her. They even go so far as draining the Twin Rivers irrigation canal to look for her, which, pretty much left the town without water for a few hours.
Wow.
While they did that. Unfortunately, they did find her body on November 29th. That was like a early morning. They had found some tracks near the train tracks of the Union Pacific. They had found like footprints of two people. And then at one point, it leads up to this culvert, and they find her in the culvert, and then they see one, set of footprints walking away. So she's found in that culvert. There is a 38 shell casing by her head. Turns out after her autopsy, they find out she had been shot in her left eye, and that was the cause of her death. But he had hit her with the butt of the gun, and the injury was not substantial enough to kill her, so he shot her.
Criminal mastermind, this guy.
Right. He had given a 17-page statement to the sheriff listing like just everything. And until they showed her like body, so the pictures of her body at the scene, he would not admit to anything. But the second they had, photographic evidence and they said, look, here she is, we know you shot her, he admitted to it. But he would never sign his confession. Never would.
Okay. What does that matter? I mean, it didn't matter. They had all the evidence.
They had everything they needed. And even on the charges alone for shooting the patrolman, instantly killing him, and then shooting the sheriff, who was still at that time fighting for his life, that was enough. Even if they had never found her body, he was not going anywhere. No. He was talking to newspapers left and right. He is quoted as saying, if Mildred's father had kept his nose out of our affairs, all of this would not have happened. And that was an interview he gave to the Idaho Evening Times. Blame it on daddy.
Yeah. Of course.
Not even your daddy.
Yeah.
Her daddy.
Yeah. It's just like his whole life. He doesn't want to take responsibility for anything. He drinks too much. It's his pattern.
Yeah.
Sounds like a very big piece of work.
Dougie.
Little old Dougie.
If there's any Dougies that are listening, I'm sorry. But yeah.
We know you're not all bad Dougies.
No, we know. We know that you're not bad.
This Dougie just gives you a bad name. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So he's charged with first-degree manslaughter, and he's sentenced to death. And he ends up actually evading his hanging. He appeals, but they only give him appeals for about a year. He tries to appeal on the grounds that he's insane. And he manages to get psychologists to come in and testify that during these appeals that he is insane and that he has mental issues. Obviously, but you still killed somebody. You killed a lot of somebodies.
I mean, you might have mental problems, but that doesn't mean that you're not an asshole.
It doesn't mean that you can't be held accountable for your actions either. Right. Yeah, you can still be an asshole and be mentally ill.
Right.
Yeah, so he actually manages the day before the day that he was supposed to hang was Friday, December 10th. He manages to escape his jail cell the night before, climbs up into the rafters of, like above the jail cell. This was like 3 stories high, it amounts to. And then he jumps off the rafters and hits concrete floor, brick floor, some type of hard floor. And he breaks his neck and he shatters his shoulder. He doesn't die. He suffers. He lingers, and he actually passes away on the date that he would have been hung, which was December 10th.
That's just some karmic justice.
Poetic. That was just the day that you were meant to die. Yeah. So Mildred's body was brought back home by her 2 brothers for the funeral, and she was buried on December 2nd, 1935. At that time, she was just 22 years old. Yeah, it's really sad. Yeah. Like I said, the media had this everywhere. They had photos of her body in newspaper articles.
No.
How?
There's nobody who was governing that. No, at that point, the media, pretty much had free reign because they kept saying, "Oh, it's the right for the people to know," and they would release details that shouldn't be released. So it's good in one way because now we can look back at those and get information, but it's very sensationalized information and it's very grandiose. You know what I mean? It's put in a way that is not necessarily factual. So you kind of have to weed through that. But there's probably more information in some of these news articles than in like personal accounts of some things. Just because people don't like to remember the bad things.
Well, the other thing, too, is like I think they were better writers back then because, the newspapers have been around a long time.
Oh, yeah.
TV was fairly new. I mean, but I just felt the quality of writing had to be more.
It had to grab you.
Yeah, it had to grab you.
Yeah.
They knew back then. That's how you sold papers.
Right.
They're not in the business of telling the truth. They're in the business of selling papers.
Right. They're in the business of selling a story.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Now the stories pretty much, they sell themselves almost in a way because we have, pictures, video, voices. We can hear direct from the source.
Right.
It's very, very different now. And I can't imagine what news will be like in another 90 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's so different now. You barely see people get newspapers, actual physical newspapers to hold in your hand and yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine only getting my news from a piece of paper every single. I mean, I can't imagine, and I'm at the age where I still can remember. I can still remember that. Paper. Oh yeah, and we used to get all the Sunday ads and stuff, but now that seems so far away.
Oh yeah, I can't even remember the last time I bought an actual newspaper.
The last time I bought was a few months ago to move here. I literally bought newspaper to pack things.
I mean, that's the thing is it is the best packing material.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. All right. Well, when we get back from the break, we will discuss the kidnapping and attempted ransom of 10-year-old Charles Mattson.
Hi, I'm Brittany.
And I'm Amber.
And we're the hosts of True Crime Buzz.
We believe there's nothing better than a good glass of wine.
Or Diet Coke.
And true crime.
So buckle up and get ready, y'all.
Because each week we like to pour a glass
and discuss the most insane true crime stories ever.
That's right. Murders, missing persons, cults, we cover it all.
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify.
With new episodes every Tuesday.
So grab a drink and join us.
Cheers.
Do you love true crime? Do you love the 90s? Well, if you do, you'll love 90s Crime Time, the podcast. I'm your host, Simone, and on 90s Crime Time, I'll be reading about and discussing these chilling 90s crimes with you. And unlike the Columbine High School massacre, the O.J. Simpson trial, and the Oklahoma City bombing, I'd like to talk about 90s crimes that you may or may not have heard about much in the national and worldwide media. Theft, kidnappings, murder are just some of the topics we'll talk about that happened in this crazy decade. So if the 90s and true crime is your thing, make sure you look out for new episodes of 90s Crime Time every Wednesday and Thursday on most podcast platforms. Check out the 90s Crime Time official Instagram page at 90s Crime Time and the official website at 90scrimetime.com. And I'll see you soon on the show.
All right. So the last of these 5 kidnapping cases that we're discussing is the tragic kidnapping and death of Charles Mattson. And this has never been solved. This case still lives in infamy with the FBI case files, and it remains open because there's no statute of limitations on capital crimes. So maybe they're actively still looking at this. I don't know, but it's not closed.
I hate to repeat it every time, but hopefully DNA comes into play now.
I think that any of the evidence that they have, unfortunately, I don't think it's well preserved enough all these years later.
Yeah, well, before they couldn't get bone DNA, now they can.
I mean, yeah, at some point, maybe they will be able to get something from it. But yeah, at this point in time, I don't think we've caught up with that yet. So Charles was from a well-off family who also just blocks away from these other kidnappings where they happened. His home was 2 blocks away from Hadaway Hall, or the Weyerhaeuser mansion. On December 27th, 1936, Charles was forcibly taken from the family's home, and that was the last time he was seen alive. So Dr. and Mrs. William Matson were out at a society function that evening. The maid was off, so it was just the kids on their own.
How rough the maid was off.
I know.
The maid. Sorry.
I picture, so of course I have a lot of images, the imagery, right? I pictured Clue when I was
researching
this.
Sure.
Yes. If anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about, there's a movie from the early mid-80s. I think it's 84.
No,
84.
It was 89.
No, it wasn't that late.
85, 87. Maybe 84.
It's mid-80s, and it was based off of the game Clue, and it has amazing people in it.
Yeah,
Tim Curry,
yeah.
one of my favorite people. Yeah, to watch act. I love him, and just some other really
what's his name?
well-known people. Which one?
Oh my goodness, he plays Professor Plum. What's his name?
I don't know. Why do you do this?
I know that he.
I'm the one that brought it up, and I'm like, why did you do this? Was it Richard something? No,
I want to say Christopher Plummer, but I feel like that's not right.
Professor Plum is the Back to the Future guy.
Yeah, I know, but Chris, I don't remember his name.
How do you not?
Anyway, great movie.
Okay,
Watch
very
it.
great movie. Love that movie. We watch it all
it.
the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So at home that evening, of course, was Charles, the youngest of the kids. His brother William Jr., who was age 16. His sister Muriel, who was age 14. Muriel. Very well loved name during that time. Yes. There's also a friend of Muriel's who's visiting from Seattle that evening, and her name was Virginia. She was 15. So, I mean, older kids, they should have been fine. They were enjoying a good time, and they were hanging out, listening to the radio, and drinking root beer and having popcorn. And yeah, when Charles goes to the kitchen area, the back area of the house, and he comes back, tells his brother that he saw a man in bushes in the backyard. And his brother's like, it's fine. We're in the house. It's locked. We're safe. And unfortunately, on the back French door, they hear pounding. And this guy eventually breaks the glass on the door, and he gets in the house and flashes a gun at the kids. This guy's wearing a mask, and so they don't catch a lot of what he's saying. They say that he's mumbling and that he's, kind of claiming, well, where's the money out in the house? And William was kind of like, well, we don't keep the money in the house. Yeah. And at one point he grabs William. He's kind of in his pockets and patting him down. And William's like, I don't have any money on me. and the guy's just kind of, not really all there. When he's told there's no money, he turns to grab Charles, and he reportedly says, quote, I want you to come with me. You're your father's favorite, so you're worth more money. And he drags this kid out through the broken door, and on his way out, he drops a very crumpled, well-aged, typewritten note. And with that, the teenagers just watch as this guy carries Charles off through the backyard and down this embankment where it leads down to Ruston Way. They don't know what the fuck to do. I mean, it's just kind of this happened.
What the fuck?
Right.
Yeah.
So William does get on the phone right away. He calls the police first and reports the kidnapping. Then he also calls where his parents are, and he alerts them. The police come very quickly from all accounts, and the kids are able to give a good description because at some point the mask falls down. And they see his full face. They start describing the intruder. They call him swarthy.
Oh,
Swarthy. I was like, that's not a word you hear anymore.
The hell
Very
does that
swarthy gentleman. Swarthy is swashbuckler kind of thing, like dangerous, handsome. Like you're very, like you know, you've got day old hair growth and you're just kind of rugged looking, but you're up to no good.
You know what? Kind of like Jeremy Meeks, that guy who's, oh my gosh.
Jeremy Meeks.
His mugshot was posted by Stockton PD in like 2013, and he became a model.
Yes.
Because he was swarthy.
Mm-hmm. Yes. That's what that means. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah, swarthy.
I didn't memorize his name.
Okay, go on then.
I just watched this video about him. Okay, he was saying how it changed his life for the better.
I mean, I hope so. If you're given that opportunity, you need to take that and do better.
Yes,
do
exactly.
Better. So this guy is swarthy. He's between the age of 35 and 40. He's average height, dark hair, dark eyes, and he spoke with an accent. They don't say what type of accent. Just that he had an accent. He could have been Hispanic. He could have been European of some kind. Who knows? So this also, side note, fits the description of the attempted kidnapper from, the year prior of the 6-year-old.
Oh.
Matched the description of that. So there is a possibility that this is tied. He said swarthy. It's just kind of one of those coincidences. Tacoma PD immediately begins the search, and they search all night. They block off roads. They search the entire Pierce County, come up with nothing. Can't find him. Don't know where he went.
Huh.
So at the home, there are signs that the intruder had a car waiting, but there's no clues. There's no idea how he got into the backyard. There's no idea how he knew where to go. First of all, was he looking for this one particular person? What was he doing? There's no clue whatsoever. And the ransom note is very confusing. It doesn't really make sense. The amount is odd, and it doesn't have Charles's name on it anywhere, or the Matson name for that matter. It's not written to somebody. So it's also
generic.
very generic. Mm. Yeah. It's also very dirty. It's, you could see like in the folds where it was creased.
Naughty note?
A naughty note.
You said it's very dirty. No?
Okay, you just took that to another level. Like I wasn't expecting you.
God damn it, Bryce.
Sorry.
What is going on?
I don't know. You said that they didn't understand the language.
No, I didn't say that. Are you listening?
Plot twist.
No, I said it didn't make any sense. Like it was confusing.
And dirty.
But dirty in a way that it was like
I'm just clarifying,
crusty.
Okay? I don't want anyone out there to get confused either.
I'm going to read the ransom note to you. No, it's not literally. It's not suggestive.
Plot twist. Plot twist. The ransom note is actually a love letter, but in a different language.
To whom it may concern.
It's a very different language. Well, it didn't even say that.
Yeah, I know, but
George Weyerhaeuser's at least said that.
Yeah, a generic one. It's like, to whom it may concern.
Right. Dear
I have
sir
your
or
son
madam.
/ daughter.
Right.
And I require a ransom.
I got this out of
Snatcher
literally. Monthly.
I mean, literally. That would be a good magazine during that time.
Snatcher Monthly.
I mean, for the amount of, because they're called snatcherings. So.
We should put that on a t-shirt.
We should put that on a t-shirt.
Oh my God.
Did we just come up with an idea?
No.
Pegboard.
Put it on the, I don't know.
What pegboard?
Do we have a pegboard?
No.
Put it on the idea board.
The vision board.
Okay, the vision board. Okay, focus. Okay, so this dirty note, it looks like it was worn and like carried around for a while. So like in the folds and the creases of the paper were like stained and crusty. Okay. They think it's possibly that this is the same note that the kidnapper was going to leave at Hadaway Hall when he attempted to kidnap. They're connecting dots here. This is what the ransom note says. The price is $28,000, $10,000 in 5s and 10s, $18,000, 50 and hundreds. Old bills pleased, no new ones. Put ad in Seattle Times personal column. Read Mabel. What's your new address, Tim? Put this ad times no other paper. If no answer from you within week, price goes up double and double that each week after. Don't fail and I won't. The boy is safe. Tim. So there's weird typos. The 28,000 has a comma. After that, the 10,000 and the 18,000, no comma, to signify that it's like, you know, holding the 10,000's place, how you would write out like 18, comma, 000. It's just 18,000. But the 28 has 28, comma, 000. There's no dollar signs. Fives, so where it says 10,000 in fives, fives is spelled out, Fives. Tens is 10s.
Maybe it's like a secret code.
Maybe. It's just, it's very odd to look at it. It doesn't, you have to think they're trying to be brief, right? You got to get a point across. But
Right.
also, if you want to be taken seriously, you need to write this so that it makes sense.
Right. But I'm thinking, you know, if this guy's speaking in an accent.
Right. Is
Maybe-
English his first language?
Maybe English isn't his first language.
Right.
And also, you know, think of the times, poorer, lower working
Sure.
middle class.
Not necessarily educated,
Right. Or well educated.
well educated, right?
So they may not be completely aware of all the nuances of writing complete sentences.
Right. Very true. But then how do they know how to use a typewriter?
I mean, right, but I kind of think, maybe here I am assuming, but it's kind of like now where everyone knows how to use a computer.
Yeah, but if you are, I mean, we're saying they're not educated enough to, it's not these words are misspelled. There are some errors, but they're type errors. These things are spelled correctly, essentially.
Maybe he was drunk.
I mean, that there's always.
It
there's
sounds like
always-
this guy just operates drunk, inebriated the whole time because he walks in,
Yeah, he's
Give
like
me all the
mumbling.
money.
Yeah, where's the money at?
right, and his mask falls down.
Right.
He's like, "Well, you'll do. Come here,
Right.
kid."
I mean, essentially,
Then on his way out, he's just like, "Oh yeah, drop the fucking note.
right. The note that's been in your pocket for a year. Yeah,
Possibly.
It's in this pocket."
it's very interesting.
Now here it is. All right, here I'm dropping it, kid.
Now I'm picturing Columbo.
Yeah. Now we're gonna go over here. We're gonna slide down the side of a mountain. Then we're gonna get in a car and drive away.
This shouldn't be funny. Like, this is what it
This is
is.
so shouldn't.
It's not, but this guy is hilarious.
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
His
I mean,
vibe.
it's
And-
definitely interesting.
And what's crazier is that he's baffled the FBI.
Right.
This
It's
was like,
unsolved.
it's just like, accidental genius.
Yeah, right.
I beat the FBI. How'd you beat the FBI? I have no idea.
I don't know. I don't know what I did. I just did what I did.
This is why I always say stick to what you know, stay in your lane, and go back to basics.
And even you can outsmart the FBI.
Yeah. I'll put it in the next edition of Snatcher Monthly.
Oh my God. Are we going to hell for laughing at this?
Absolutely. Meet you there. Bring the tequila.
All right. So authorities figure out that this was typed on a Child's Play typewriter.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, there's your problem.
That's your problem. It was meant for childs. It's meant for a child, not an adult to use. That's the problem.
That's the problem.
Right.
You
But
use
again,
the tools that you have available.
well, and I'm thinking if he broke into that other house and they caught him in the house, but he managed, to escape. If he is the same person, maybe he typed it at that house while he was looking for the kid.
I don't find there's a fucking typewriter here. Hold on.
Well, it's better than handwriting it.
Let me just do this note real quick. Nobody will walk by.
I don't know. Maybe
Here.
he worked over there. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I mean,
You're probably right. He's not a fucking genius. He probably was just like, there's supposed to be a kid here. I don't see. Hold on. Let me
Right.
do this note real quick.
Right. I'll find him. It'll take me
two
a
birds,
second.
one stone.
I mean, right. I just kind of was trying to say, well, if you see connections the descriptions match. There are other things that kind of lead you to think that this might be the same person. Where's the opportunity to get the note? And why do you have it in your pocket for a year? Like, why do you have it with you this whole entire time? Because you're just trying to take a kid.
Right. I mean, the other possibility is that this note was written for this specific kidnapping. However, he had been waiting for the right opportunity for a moment in time.
Yeah.
Because, just remember, hygiene was not... And this motherfucker is already climbing up embankments and shit. I mean...
They don't know if he was climbing up, but he definitely climbed down.
Okay, so he dirty. He doing dirty shit.
If he was outside, he was dirty, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I could go on another tangent.
No, there are a lot of things. Yeah. There are definitely a lot of odd things with him, just with this intruder, this guy, period. Yeah. So there's 9 FBI agents that make their way to Tacoma after being called by the police. And after the Lindbergh kidnapping in 1932, interstate kidnapping was made a federal offense by Congress. The FBI's services hadn't been used in this manner since the Weyerhaeuser kidnapping. So literally the last time that they had been called in to investigate a kidnapping was, 2 blocks down the street?
These people are probably thinking, oh, God damn it.
I wouldn't have wanted to live in Tacoma
this fucking
at this
town.
point. Right? So the problem is that I see, there's no confirmation that Charles has been taken to another state. So the FBI just kind of comes charging in, but they shouldn't have been. They should not have been there. Right. There was no reason to assume that Charles would have been taken anywhere outside of the state.
Well, I mean, I do have to think in the last case, in part 1, there was no real confirmation that he was moved out of state either, but yet they were involved.
They were involved, yeah.
So, I mean, I will say that.
So the family is very upset. They want to fully cooperate with the demands and the instructions. And as in that previous case, the media gets wind of this and it's plastered everywhere. It goes worldwide. It's reported in different languages. It's everywhere. And then, the family's asking, can you guys back off a little bit? Can you, give us the opportunity to comply with the demands so that we have a chance to get our son back? And this time the FBI does not comply with that. And because of that, the media does not comply with that. So the FBI pretty much, they put out a description right away and they offer a $10,000 reward. And they immediately start following up on any and every lead that they have.
Oh.
Yeah. And so the media is taking that and they just run with it. So they get, the sketch out. There are 40 additional agents that are sent. So almost 50 agents are sent up to Tacoma to investigate this. And then from there to take any leads and go wherever they need to question people.
Back then, that's probably like half the FBI.
It was a lot. The assistant director came up and was in charge of overseeing this investigation.
So it was half the
basically. There was a direct phone line that was put in the house that would go to J. Edgar Hoover.
Oh.
So he was in contact with the family, and then he was able to contact any of the FBI agents that were around the house.
Oh.
At any time during the day.
Wow.
President Franklin Roosevelt was also in direct contact with the family, as was his wife.
No shit.
Yes. It was that aspect of things was heavily reported on in the media as well. Like the involvement of the president and his wife and like any statements that they gave.
Yeah, that's weird. You got a direct line to the president.
Right. Hoover or the president.
Right. Like half the federal government you can call right now.
This is not, this family is affluent. I'm not downplaying that they're not like a wealthy, well-known family or well-connected family. They're not politicians. They're not connected to government in any way. This is a doctor.
Right. This
and his
isn't,
family.
This isn't the fucking Roosevelt or the what's their faces? The Vanderbilts or the Rockefellers. That's what I meant. The Rockefellers or something.
Right. This is a very well-known and respected family in the area, and they are well off and well connected to many places and many people, but not not what I would expect for them to get a phone call from the president necessarily.
Especially back in those days.
Yeah, it is just kind of interesting. So December 28th, that's the next day after the kidnapping, there's an ad in the paper that Dr. Mattson claims he did not place. And it reads, as it should, Mabel, please give us your address. But it's signed Anne, not Tim. And after that, a special delivery letter is delivered to the home that says the money should be delivered by any person. They need to be alone, and they need to be driving a Ford. Doesn't say anything other than a Ford.
Okay.
Right.
So we're really going
They're
for
very particular.
The American built cars here.
There wasn't much choice in the 1930s. I mean, they were all American built.
Yeah.
True. I'm just thinking like, oh, we're getting real patriotic about it now.
It would have all been patriotic, though. There were no other choices. And I don't think you could even import anything at that point.
Oh, there wasn't a big market for it because, we were still high on America. And
steel was a big,
Hudson
right. There's no instructions, though. There's no instructions on where to go or when. Just be ready. Yeah. Over the next few days, multiple messages are delivered to the Mattson home, and investigators believe these are fakes, that there's people trying to get info or they're trying to get money. And because all of the information is being readily put out there in the newspaper, you can imagine the quacks that start coming in, trying to get some notoriety, trying to get their moment, trying to get some money.
Yeah, since all that was leaked, you got someone in the, just in the general public saying, writing into the personals. Right. Because, the Mattsons aren't looking for a response because they didn't write anything. They didn't post a personal
Not
ad.
at that point yet.
You just got, these quacks out there sending it in on their own accord.
Right.
You also have to realize that these people were desperate. I mean, in those days, people were hungry. People were losing everything. They were desperate. So if it's between me sending this fake letter to possibly get $28,000 and my children starving, I mean, I'm going to take every chance I can get. Not saying it's right, but kind of getting the head of a desperate mother or father,
Yeah, no, I absolutely could see that. And the way the media plays into that.
Right.
Is just another layer of how tough the situation was during that time. So they do know that there are some actual messages. There's 3 they get through that are actually from the kidnappers because they're being written by Charles and they can confirm his handwriting. Of course, the family can't leave their house without reporters following everywhere. Dr. Mattson repeatedly asked for everybody to back off so they, can do what they need to do. Nobody's paying attention and everybody just, the news just keeps going about their business. The FBI, though, does eventually agree that they'll allow, negotiations to happen and they will kind of back off a little bit. And then when they can, they'll focus on the suspect once they have Charles back, safely. All in all, the family placed 5 ads in the paper, all claiming that they were trying to cooperate and that the police were not intercepting communication, but authorities believe that none of the responses they got from them were credible. The last one was ran twice. There was a version on January 8th that read, Mabel, we are still waiting. All arrangements have been carried out in accordance with instructions contained in notes received. Be certain to give me information so I may guard against imposters and hijackers. Be more specific in your instructions. Anne. Why they're signing Anne, and he said that he didn't send out that first message, I don't really understand that.
Yeah, I mean, what happened to Tim? Where is Tim?
I don't, right?
Who is Anne?
Who's this bitch?
Who's Mabel?
Yeah. The next day afterwards, they have that same ad, and then they add to it, in view of lapse of time, also desire no proof that my son is alive and well. Anne. Like I said, there's 3 confirmed communications from the kidnappers. They're confusing, just like the ransom. And they reflect this nervous person who doesn't want to be caught. So this person is fearful, and it shows. They're feeling the media's everywhere. All of this shit is just wildly speculated. And then you got the FBI offering a $10,000 reward. Who's not going to turn your ass in for $10,000?
Right.
Like, you're trying to get 28,000, and that'd be great if you got it, but somebody's going to turn you in for 10.
Right.
Please. So there was one attempt. Dr. Mattson they made a plan to meet in Seattle on Beacon Hill, and he tried to get there. For whatever reason, he couldn't. There was an accident, and like traffic just was jammed. So he didn't reach the meeting point at the time, and nothing was successful.
Interesting.
On January 11th, unfortunately, the body of Charles Mattson was found just outside of Everett, Washington. He was found by a teenage boy. He was out hunting for rabbits in the snow. It's really sad. He was found completely nude. His body was frozen. They are pretty sure that he was dumped after the fresh snow, so either the night of the 10th or early the morning of the 11th. When the FBI was able to do an autopsy, they found that he had been dead for some days. It was very hard to determine because the body was preserved because it had been frozen. They did find that he had been very badly beaten. He was bludgeoned, possibly with a hammer or a pipe, and that caused his skull to be crushed. He had also been stabbed with a long blade in his back.
Jesus.
Yeah. There were marks on his wrist that showed that he had been bound by rope. And there were also like scratches and then remnants of clay on his hands and his face. Authorities thought that he maybe had been held in a cellar or a pit, somewhere where he had tried to climb up out of, and that left the scratches and like clay, kind of in his skin. There was also evidence that he spent some time in the trunk of a car. They found motor oil and dirt, like debris on him.
Oh.
So at the scene, there's footprints. There's also some drag marks, but nothing indicated that Charles died there. They found no blood. His clothes were not there. No murder weapon. The scene is a very clean scene, aside from these marks. His clothes are later found. They're covered in blood. They were found in something that the media termed the Mattson death car. So this death car, as they call it, was parked not far from a shack where they found more bloodied clothing and other things. I don't know what the other things are. They don't, for all of the media is giving all this information out like Skittles. There's no, it doesn't say what these other things are. And everything is taken to be investigated, but they really don't have the technology to do anything with it. So they take it, they have it. They know that the clothing is bloodied. The clothing that was found in the car is confirmed to be Charles' clothing, but they don't know. Obviously, some of that is his blood, but they don't know if there's other blood. They don't know if there's anything else on it. There's just the technology is not there.
Right.
So this is just a car they found by his body.
It was parked not far away. And it was abandoned, and it was.
They're just calling it the Mattson death car.
They're calling it the Mattson death car.
Okay.
And it was parked near a shack where they think he might have been
being held,
or the kidnapper, went there and then left. And again, they have no way of knowing how long the body was there. He could have been dead, they said, for as long as like a week, maybe even longer.
Yeah, it's just like
the body was preserved.
Yeah,
right. So they really don't have a clear picture of what the time of death or guessing what the time of death would be. So they're even at one point they're questioning, while some of the interaction is happening, some of these confirmed, out of the 3 confirmed interactions that they have with the kidnapper, at what point was he still alive?
Yeah.
Because he could have written all of those letters at one time and then they didn't send them all at one time.
Right.
He could have been killed immediately afterwards.
Yeah, you're talking about a guy who waited a year.
Right.
To drop this dirty note.
Right.
This naughty note.
And if you wanted the ransom, you would not have harmed this child.
No.
You were never, that would not have ended well for you. If you made a drop, got the money, and then they found out that you had killed this child, you would have lived the rest of your life looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, there's some fishy things about this.
Very fishy things. Yeah.
Fishy.
On January 12th, FDR released a statement. It's long, but I'm going to read it. The murder of the little Mattson boy has shocked the nation. Every means at our command must be enlisted to capture and punish the perpetrator of this ghastly crime. Attorney General Cummings informs me that he has offered a reward for information leading to the arrest of the criminal, and that the special agents of the Federal Bureau of Investigation of the Department of Justice are engaged in a search that will be pursued relentlessly and will not be terminated until the murderer is caught. I bespeak for the agents of the Department of Justice the continued and wholehearted cooperation of the local police and all other law enforcement agents in this necessary work. A crime of this kind is renewed evidence of the need of sustained effort in dealing with the criminal menace. This, to me, is propaganda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not saying that he didn't feel shitty and want to send out, something to the family that said, like, we are horrified by this and whatever. You're not speaking to the family here, though. You're speaking to the public at large, and you're saying this is exactly why we need the FBI.
Well, it's like when any, after 9/11,
right?
Then we get, we need a department to handle quote unquote Homeland Security,
right?
Which is now we have that,
right?
So I mean, politicians will jump whenever, And
I have a feeling that is why they involved themselves so readily in both of those cases, in the Weyerhaeuser and this case, even knowing that they didn't have confirmation that anybody had been taken across state lines. They're trying to prove that it's a useful entity to have, and this is exactly why we need it.
Right.
That to me, that whole statement was just, ugh. If you're going to give a statement to the public, it should have been about the victim.
Right. Not about the FBI.
Right.
I mean, I get it at the time, the FBI is new.
Right.
Yada, yada, yada. I will give FDR this, he set a lot of things in motion that we take granted for today. A lot of government programs have got a lot of government departments, and he facilitated and fought for these things.
Right.
I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but read the room.
Right.
Read the room.
Yeah. At this point, this is solely intent on proving to Americans, fear mongering.
Right.
You're proving your point by saying, look at what happens when we don't have the manpower, or, like, this is what happens and this is why we're necessary. It just it set me on edge to read that a little bit. The FBI keep working on this case tirelessly, following any and all leads. That reward is still out there for the $10,000. I don't think today it is, but it was out for a very long time. They eventually come across thousands of suspects, and out of that, they only make one arrest.
Oh.
Thousands.
Thousands.
Yes.
How many?
So I'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
They take plaster casts of the footprints in the tire tracks, which is a relatively new practice. This is a kind of a learning experience for them. They're trying to figure out new ways to outsmart criminals. And this is how you do it, by, investigating a case that has a horrible outcome. And what can you do to, clues that you've been given, what can you do with them? So they come up with these basically new ways of investigation. They have the plaster casts. That doesn't give them any information, but they have them. They do it. They also follow up on 7 million fingerprints are compared.
Holy.
And I'm talking like old timey, like your fingerprint is put on a cardboard, like index card, and kept on a file.
Oh.
I'm not, there was no microfiche or anything like that. Like there's no photographs that are taking these.
I'd hate to be the guy that had to carry those books around.
Those
binders.
Right.
I mean, as myself, I'm a filing clerk, and I could only imagine.
Yeah.
Like, holy man.
Where's the room that has 7 million, cases with files of fingerprints?
Where is she?
Right. So they don't match any fingerprints. 7 million fingerprints that they compare to.
Jesus.
Or the guy got really tired. He's like, nope.
I mean, I can't imagine how long could your eyes try to focus on stuff like that under a microscope and a light? And
how many copies do you have of the fingerprints you're trying to identify? So how many people are actually working on this all at once?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. How many people could actually work on this all at
feasibly?
once? Right. like I said, to this day, this is unsolved. The FBI claims, and I couldn't confirm this, but this is only one of 2 cases like this that the FBI did not solve. And the other was a kidnapping and murder in New York of a 12-year-old named Peter Levine. And that was in February of 1938. After all this time, since the 30s, any investigation like this that the FBI has been involved in, they're saying that they solved.
Wow. I mean, they're saying that they solved it.
Yeah.
I found that a very interesting statement.
It feels a little inflated.
Right. And I'm not sure what they're comparing. Are they saying like kidnapping for ransom? It's possible, I guess. But if you're talking about kidnappings across state lines, I don't think that's accurate at all.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, it feels a little inflated. It really does.
If you're really getting, nitpicky, these were not, well, this one particular, George did cross state lines, but he came back to Washington and was returned. This child never left state lines that they know of. Right.
And the thing is with George is they didn't know until afterwards,
right,
that he actually crossed state lines.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, it was an interesting statement. So this case file has over 240,000 pages. As a comparison, the Lindbergh case, which is the most notable, I think, kidnapping and ransom case in the United States history,
right,
had maybe about 25,000 pages.
Wow.
So how many suspects were there? There was over 26,000 persons of interest.
Whoa.
That they interviewed and talked to.
That's extra.
It's a lot.
That's extra.
That to me means that anybody who sneezed in the general direction of this house within a week time period
that may have looked swarthy
was questioned.
Like he looked swarthy this on Monday.
Right.
And they're like, okay, on Tuesday you don't look swarthy anymore, but we're still going to arrest. We're going to bring you in.
We're going to talk to you. You're a person of interest. One thing I found interesting was big time criminals were questioned, not for, any connection to the case, but essentially like an early profiling. So they went to Alcatraz and they went to Folsom State. And one of the persons who was responsible for George Weyerhaeuser's kidnapping, that's Harmon Whaley. He was in Alcatraz at the time. He was quoted by another inmate saying that the amount of money was nutty and that they, in parentheses, the snatchers who were incarcerated, believed that the person responsible was a lunatic.
I mean,
or a drunk. I'm telling you, the guy's a drunk.
He's a drunk.
The crazy criminal people think that you're crazy. So, right. I mean, that's
saying something.
That's saying something.
Right. The guys incarcerated at, Alcatraz are saying you're a nut.
No, but it really sounds like this entire case was really, yes, the FBI was trying, but it really feels more like they're treating it like a workshop and basically putting a lot of early work down for groundwork for a lot of practices in forensics and we take for granted today that are very commonplace.
And I mean, at some point you are learning. You're creating a completely new field. Yeah. And you are learning. You are using some of these experiences that you're getting as a way to teach and learn. This one they meant well. Yes, they meant well. Obviously, they wanted to catch this guy. And obviously, nobody wanted the child to be horrifically murdered, in the way that he was. But it still, none of their efforts came to anything. Talking to 26,000 people.
Yeah.
And you could only get one person that was good enough to arrest. And so, as I mentioned, that arrest was made in 1938. That was 32-year-old Lester Mead. He was arrested in Ritzville, Washington. They let him go eventually after they talked to him because it turns out that at the time of the kidnapping, he was in Eastern State Mental Hospital.
Oh.
So he could not have been the kidnapper. So literally talking about lunatic, he was in the place to get help for being mentally unhealthy.
Okay.
Yes. There are some other suspects that I mentioned. He
probably wasn't swarthy.
I don't know if he was swarthy enough or not. You never know. Does being crazy make you swarthy?
I mean,
That's a question.
if I don't shave for 3 days, I look a little swarthy.
But are you mentally unstable and swarthy?
Well, that's a question for other people.
Yeah,
I
don't
can't
have
answer.
a degree.
I don't feel like I'm qualified to answer that question. One of the other suspects included a patient of Dr. Matson's who had mental issues. My favorite suspect is an unknown person who went by the name Shorty the Finn. It's the coolest name ever. I don't care.
Shorty the Finn.
Yeah. The FBI never learned who Shorty the Finn is.
They questioned him?
No, he was just a suspect.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Right. Or they. It could have been a female.
Ooh, a female Shorty the Finn.
Right.
Ooh, that's kind of, ooh.
Just reminds me of Kaiser Soze.
Kaiser Sose. Yes.
Nobody knows
Who is Kaiser Sose? Yeah. Is they don't know who it is, but it could have been connected, and Shorty the Finn. I don't know.
It's kind of like,
It's a cool name.
kind of like if Banksy was like in the mafia.
Right. There's another one that was interesting. It was a Nazi sympathizer who was arrested for kidnapping a 3-year-old a few years later in 1940. Then there was brothers Dick and Jack Law. They had connections to a local union, and they had connections to the Matson case. I couldn't figure out what the connections were, just that they had them.
Maybe they supplied something to the doctor. I don't know.
Maybe they
were delivery drivers or something with supplies for medical. I don't know.
Yeah. So in 1940, Dick Law murdered his wife.
Oh.
Yeah. Obviously, they didn't have any issues with killing people while they were making deliveries, I guess.
Maybe.
Quite lawless of you.
Yes.
Dick Law.
Dick Law. So none of these people are actually connected by any evidence or any motive. There never was any motive behind any of this other than to get money.
At this point, they're shooting the shit.
This person just didn't try hard enough to get this money, though, from what I'm seeing. Your contact was irregular with the people, and then you brutally murdered the child. Did you think you were going to get paid?
I have a comment on that, but we'll come back to that.
Okay. Dr. Matson and his wife would only speak of their son's kidnapping and murder one time publicly between the two of them. So hers was during the few days when they were hopeful that they might get Charles back. His was on January 16th, just after they had found the body. Dr. Matson released a statement that went out over the radio and in the news. And in it, he politely hinted that the media circus was overwhelming. From like the articles that I read, it is definitely putting that mildly. The way he worded his like rebuke of the media and how they reported the case was very gentlemanly. It was, I would have been like, y'all fucking helped to kill my son. And he was, yes, we had disagreements at the beginning, and then I asked them to back off, and they did for the most part, essentially, condensing that.
Suspicious.
Yeah. Some of the articles that I was able to find were absolutely crazy. One paper described the autopsy in detail.
Ew.
And added fantastical accounts of sexual deviancy. Nowhere does it say that anywhere in the autopsy. It just literally is a little blurb above the next section that says sexual fiend or something like sexual pervert. Where he wasn't, like, the child was not assaulted sexually. So why is that being listed? What does that have to do with anything?
That's them selling paper.
Right. Another released an inaccurate copy of the ransom note. So that's where you get people writing in. Then another letter was published from one of Charles' schoolmates asking for his safe return. So now you're pandering.
Yeah.
With, other children who are very upset and distraught, I'm sure, by this.
Yeah.
So Charles' brother, William Jr., and his sister, Muriel, followed in their father's footsteps. They wouldn't speak of the incident publicly. William Jr. furthered that he did not want to go back to the past. He multiple times would be asked about this because he stayed in this area. He retired as a doctor. He went into the family business. He retired and he actually passed away in 1999. As far as I can tell, he never went on to marry or have a family. And anytime he was asked about this, he would absolutely refuse and say it was in the past and he wasn't going to bring it up again. and there was no reason to. Muriel, she had a really interesting life. So she met and married the love of her life, moved to Atlanta, and she actually ended up doing civil rights work.
Oh, wow.
During the time of the school's integration. So she was an activist and very like a part of civil rights and on a lot of committees with these schools trying to get, integration to happen. And most of the people, when she passed away, even her closest friends, had no idea of the family trauma that they had gone through when she was a teenager. No idea at all.
Wow.
Didn't even know that she had a younger brother.
Wow.
Yeah. So, they took this so hard that they would not even speak of it, even in the fact to say that they had a younger brother.
Yeah.
That's
true trauma.
It's very hard to erase. He was basically erased then.
Yeah. I mean, it's true trauma.
Yes.
I kind of, I like how Muriel basically took all of this negativity,
right,
and she put it into something positive that actually helped people, helped the community. I mean, so did her older brother.
Yeah.
Being a doctor and stuff.
No, he did. He was very well respected. I think he was worked in oncology because you can actually read Google reviews.
Oh, wow.
Like on his doctor profile. And there are so many reports of, he saved my mom's life, or he worked tirelessly, and great reviews of him as a doctor. Obviously, he was well respected in his field as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, they both went on to do really great things.
Important, beautiful things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 2 things that I found interesting with this one. First was that during the time after the kidnapping, before they found Charles, Dr. Mattson claimed that to someone he trusted, he had no way of raising the $28,000. And it's a very interesting thing when you look at the life they led. Of course, appearances are always important, and especially during that time, appearances were very important. They had a yacht. The older kids went to, their pick of schools and graduated. I mean, their pick of schools. I'm talking, these are very well educated people. They were connected to wealthy people. Him and his wife, the doctor and his wife, actually were married in the backyard of the person who the Mayo Clinic is named for. So
wow.
They're very well known and connected people. And he's trying to say that he can't raise $28,000.
Suspicious.
It's interesting because I kind of had to think, well, I know it's a, time where not everybody had cash readily. So you're going to go to the bank and you're going to try to get that money together. You can't mean to tell me that the bank's not going to help you, or that you're not going to have something that you could put up for collateral, or that the FBI is not going to try to help you.
Yeah, I was going to say the FBI.
Right.
Especially with the direct line to J. Edgar and the president.
They're going to make sure.
Assistant director.
Yeah.
Personally here in Tacoma.
You're going to make sure that they can pay this ransom.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to go through all of this and not be able to pay the ransom.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it's just very interesting. Another odd tidbit is that the Mattson home was demolished in 2011 by a developer.
Oh.
So that house is no longer there. He claimed he spent $1.5 million on this house and the property. He claims that there was asbestos in the walls and that the cost of reno was not worth fixing the house. So he just leveled this 6,400 square foot house. Yeah.
That's also suspicious.
It's very weird to me.
Strange.
But they claims that when they appraise the house and, people come out and look at your house when you're trying to sell it so that they can appraise it and see if there's anything. Nobody mentioned anything about asbestos. But yeah. So the house is gone.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can't go visit it?
I mean, we can go to where it was, but it's not there anymore. The Weyerhaeuser house, Hadaway Hall, that's still over there.
Is it still Hadaway Hall?
It's changed. It might still be called Hadaway Hall, but it used to be a monastery.
Oh.
There was a school there. Some nuns lived there.
Gotta love the nuns.
There was some, like a school that got put in there, and now it's being, like you can go, of course not right now, but I believe they give tours of that house.
So like the Winchester mystery.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know.
But for snatching.
For snatchers. Yeah, but this house, the Matson home is gone.
Yeah, I should go do a tour and go put it in Snatch Monthly.
Yeah.
I swear.
You need some content.
I need content.
You need content.
Guys, wait
and
for
you
it.
could go right around the corner to where Mildred and Van Vlak.
So just wait, everybody. We're going to start coming out with articles called Snatcher Monthly. It'll be a newsletter.
That'll be interesting. Sure. Newsletter. Monthly newsletter. Monthly? Weekly? Bi-weekly?
Monthly. Yeah. Snatcher Monthly.
Okay,
yeah.
Snatcher Monthly. Sure, it's in the name.
Yeah. Like, come on.
Okay. Yeah. So what are you guys' thoughts on that one?
I have a lot of thoughts, but Bryce, go first.
Why do I have to go first?
Because mine's going to be long-winded.
Okay, I'm going to need you to,
I really think that this guy was either drunk or he was schizophrenic. The guy that kidnapped him.
Maybe.
Because it was just like, he never responded to any letters. He never responded.
Not in a clear way. Yeah, no.
Yeah, and then, he has all this, I don't know, evidence. No, he has all this, I guess the letters laid out. I don't know. But then he kills the kid.
Right.
It's almost like there's two different people, or maybe he had a partner.
Maybe. They do assume that they got down that embankment and there was a car waiting.
Was a driver waiting. Yeah, I was going to say, you come down the hill, get into a car, and you don't, nobody knows how many people there. It just seems like two different people. The guy leaves a note. He's not very violent. He doesn't smack the kid up. He asks for money, and he's like, grumbles. He acts very swarthy. I don't whatever.
Swarthy.
And then like on his way out, he's like, boom, I'm out. Come here, kid.
Yeah.
You're your dad's favorite. And then he drops the note on the way out.
Yeah.
But then, he gets in the car. It's like, oh, everything's fine. Just, write Tim. It's just weird. And then to kill the kid.
Right. So one thing, like you said, he says you're your dad's favorite. How do you know that? How did he know that?
Maybe he worked on the farm or on the property. He's got a maid. Maybe he's got a gardener. Maybe he's got someone that maybe he worked for back then, I don't know, delivered groceries to the house.
It to me was an interesting statement, and the fact that it's available information means that at some point that information was probably given to FBI. And I'm then in turn will question, so did you contact people, out of these 26,000 people that you talked to that were suspects or that you looked at that were suspects? Were you looking at immediate family or immediate people who could have been close?
Well, that kind of leads me into my thing. The dad seems very sus to me. There's something about him and in his role. Okay, so first of all, this guy's like, oh, you're the dad's favorite, or you're your father's favorite. That's like, you wouldn't just drop that. There has to be something behind that.
Well, I feel like that's something you would observe. Parents don't typically come out and say who's their favorite if they have a favorite. Usually that is something that somebody observes.
Yeah, but we're also talking about a very rich, affluent family. So, and maybe not all rich people, but I just feel like rich people do play favorites. And
everybody plays favorites.
And they make that known. First of all. Second of all, this dad's saying, oh, we can't come up with $28,000. That's just, I don't know. There's just something, I feel like the dad was somehow involved. I don't know if it's for the attention of all of this. Maybe it is to, in fact, hide their lack of wealth. That they, look at the time, everybody's losing money. Maybe he didn't have the money. Maybe he really didn't have the money. So he created this media spiral to take attention off of that, since they are so affluent.
But where was the kid? When was the kid going to come back then?
I don't think he really gave a fuck about the kid.
I don't know. I kind of had a thought that maybe he had planned, or maybe somebody planned the kidnapping and it didn't work. I'm talking about the kidnapping attempts at the Hadaway house, Hadaway Hall. maybe because those didn't work, the person who was supposed to kidnap them then came and took Charles.
Well, I mean, I could see how Colin would think that, because if you look at it, it's a perfect storm.
Yeah.
The parents are at a party, a social party.
Right.
So they have an alibi.
Right.
They've given the maid the night off.
Right.
And then there's just a bunch of kids watching, or, whatever.
Listening to the radio,
listening
essentially.
to the
Yeah.
radio. And it's just kids there. So now you don't have any resistance.
Right.
You don't have any direct leadership. Like if something like that happens, it's too perfect. I mean, I can see where Colin is coming from with that. It's maid's off. They're at a party. Kid's just home alone.
Right.
I mean, he takes the youngest kid.
No, and
there's no resistance. And if he has, and then half-ass drops the note out as he's leaving.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it wasn't even like, here, give this to your parents, kid. He's just like, there, yeah, okay.
No, and even in like the Weyerhaeuser situation, they sent that letter special delivery.
Yeah.
That's the first part of their mistake, because that automatically made it a federal crime. But they sent that special delivery. They didn't even have that, they took the kid and then sent the letter.
Yeah, it just, this whole thing seemed, it almost is so messy that they want you to feel like it's messy.
Right.
Like it's too pretty of a little bow that, okay, like Bryce was saying, the parents are gone, the maid's off, the kid's gone, they drop a note, and then they miraculously get 3 letters that are signed by him, or it's written by him.
Right.
And then they show up dead. So my theory is, here we go.
Yeah.
Dad somehow was involved. I feel like it had to do with his lack of money. I really, truly do. Then something happens with the kidnappers. Because like Bryce said, I really think there was probably 2.
Probably.
If not more.
Yeah.
Right? Something goes wrong. Either maybe the kid escaped and they were able to recapture him.
Maybe.
Or something like that. Or maybe the kid knew something that he shouldn't have known.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the 30s we're talking about. It would be very difficult to hide any kind of evidence now with everything being digital. Back then, kid knows something. Those were swarthy times. Okay, you take the kid out.
Swarthy.
That's actually just so everyone knows, in Snatcher Monthly, that is this month's word of the month.
Code word.
Swarthy. Yeah.
I do feel like this one is too messy. Too messy that it's unnecessarily messy.
Yeah.
It's like distraction.
Right. The whole time I'm like, this is a distraction. And then they're miraculously getting all of these letters. I mean, yes, people were desperate. Yeah, you have your quacks and stuff out there. But what if those were sent on purpose?
To confuse.
Right. And to create confusion, going back to Clue.
Right. Yes.
Create confusion.
Confusion.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I do feel that there's obviously a lot more to this than we're ever going to know. Unfortunately, this poor child it's very unfortunate how his life ended and how that happened. It's just very unfortunate. But it also, after this, there were no more of these types of cases in this area.
Right. And I think that that's also very interesting. And I to go back to his siblings, maybe they know a little bit more too, and that's why they didn't talk about it.
I mean, it's possible. I would hope not, but it is possible.
I mean, they're that family probably had a lot of dirty little secrets, a lot of skeletons in the closet, a lot of things going on. And then, like you said, after that, there are no more kidnappings.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting.
It is interesting. I thought that was just kind of an odd. I mean, it's not that there's no more kidnappings. There's obviously kidnappings,
right?
But the type of like kidnapping for ransom
within a 10-block radius,
it doesn't really occur. Like this isolated, 18-month period, 2-year period is very interesting in the coincidences.
Maybe the attempted kidnappings were fake attempted.
Maybe. I mean, that's the thing. This is a whole rabbit hole. to go down. I do firmly believe, though, that the same kidnapper attempted them and then took Charles. That just fits too well.
I agree with you that they were involved, but I don't know that they were truly going to be kidnapped. I kind of feel like something was going on with the Madsen family, and they were trying to cover their tracks.
Possibly.
But I'm also very suspicious of anybody with money, so...
You snob.
Well, how am I a snob? They're snobs. They're the sus ones. If you're rich, give me money.
Shut up. You can't have it both ways. You can't call people suspicious and then be like, but give me your money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but pay me. You're okay, sir.
This is why you love having me on.
Yes. We thank you, as always, for listening. We've had a very interesting discussion, obviously. We want to know your guys' thoughts. Let us know what you think about these cases. And until next time, you guys stay safe and stay out of the fucking woods.
Stay out of the woods.
Also look out for Snatcher Monthly.
Yeah. Episode, or what? Version 1. No, what's it?
Edition 1.
Edition 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Email list.
Bye, guys.